Welcome to BevCam's production of Conversation with the Candidates. I'm John Maihos, your host for this segment, and today we'll be talking to Michael Cahill, who is a candidate for mayor in the city of Beverly. Mike, welcome to the show. Thanks very much for being with us today.
Thanks, John.
We want to jump right into things today because we do have an aggressive show here today, a little lengthy, but it's going to be good. Start out with why you're running for office.
Sure. Well, John, you know, I've been committed to our community of Beverly all my life. Product of the Beverly Public Schools. I went to college up in Vermont, came back and immediately started coaching and teaching in the Beverly schools. Spent the whole decade of my 20s in education. And then I was inspired to run for state legislature, and the people of Beverly elected me the first time I ran, and I served 10 years. Was very excited to do that work and think I did it very well. Was able to bring back tens of millions of dollars in our tax money back to Beverly to help build our elementary schools, to help defray costs of the new sewage treatment plant in Salem, to help buy open space and protect parts of Beverly, including helping to buy the property that we're hoping to develop into a restaurant on the waterfront. So I mean, I've served for quite a long time. I'm very excited, particularly at this time, about the things that we can accomplish as a city. You know, our city's in very good shape, and we're ready to take off and really kind of soar as a community. And there are a lot of things that I think go into that. Maybe I can talk for a while, but do you want me to let you say?
You go right ahead and talk. It's okay.
Well, I'll tell you what. To me, the real keys in this election are this. There's something about Beverly that has made all of us choose it to build our lives here, to make our homes, to raise our families. And there's something in our neighborhoods and in the quality of life in the community, the things we care about that matter for us, that we rely on the city to provide in many cases. So to make sure that we protect the character of our neighborhoods so that people feel safe in their homes, so that whether it's senior services or veteran services or parks and rec or the schools, that the city is there for the people. And the schools are critically important. We need to make sure that our schools are all they can be for every child who's in them today, and for the taxpayers whose property values rely on the fact that our schools need to be great. And then there's a whole range of projects that are kind of in the works, and some that I have in mind to help Beverly sustain our greatness and grow in the right ways as a community that has the quality of life that we all want for ourselves and our friends and loved ones.
Well, what do you think are the most pressing issues facing Beverly in the next few years?
I think probably the key right now, in a big picture sense, I talked about the quality of life we care about, the character of our neighborhoods, the services we rely on. I talked about our schools and the fact that we need for our teachers to have the resources that they need to teach our kids. We need the professional development for our teachers. We need to make sure class sizes are appropriate. We need to start and finish the Memorial Middle School project. But in order to do all that, we need revenues. And our revenues are limited. Proposition 2.5, which the people of Beverly, I think, believe strongly in, and I believe in. Proposition 2.5 allows us to raise our property taxes by a limited amount each year. Therefore, we rely on state aid, which fluctuates depending on the economy. And in a large measure, our ability to identify the right kind of new economic investment and new economic growth and go after that for the community. So to me, that's, in big measure, that's the key, is to find the right places. And to me, the downtown and the waterfront are two of the prime places for the right type of economic investment. And the Brimble Avenue project, which I know we'll talk about in more detail, is very much on people's minds right now. Done right, the outcome of that should be, again, done right, it should be that we are able to identify and achieve the type of economic investment that will create new jobs and bring new revenues to the city to do the things people care about.
If elected, what would be top on your agenda?
Well, I'd say, in a big picture sense, just what I said, finding the right type of economic growth. Right out of the gate, I'm going to put an emphasis on unlocking that waterfront. Our waterfront should be something that is available to everyone in Beverly, and should be something that really attracts us. And there's a great deal of waterfront in Beverly, but let's focus just for a minute on the stretch between the old Ventron property and Rowan's Market on down towards the Tuck Point condos. And the fact that we've been waiting for a waterfront restaurant for years. Well, we should have, and we will have, a couple of waterfront restaurants and some shops and some more, perhaps some condo development down to the waterfront and some more boat slips and a harbor walkway that really stretches the whole of that length, that really brings people down. Because that, coupled with the type of new residential development along Lower Rantoul Street from the depot station area down towards the waterfront, those things coupled together are really going to begin to bring that part of downtown back.
For people who aren't familiar with you, what's your style?
Well, first off, I've got a long record of achieving results, of really putting my shoulder to the wheel and getting work done, and doing it in the most effective of ways. When you try to do everything on your own, when you hold your own counsel and no one else's, when everything's tight in here and tightly controlled by one person, you can work on so many things at a time. But when you're able to embrace people, embrace the human capital in Beverly, all the talent that people have in this community and that people want to bring to bear to help their community, when you can embrace that, bring people to that table, kind of set the ground rules on a range of different issues and projects, and just kind of manage as opposed to running every bit of it. Manage the work, kind of set the ground rules, trust people, and then, as I said, kind of manage it, keep a hand in, keep an eye out, but kind of harness that talent and make it work for the betterment of the whole community. And that's people in the employ of the city, people in elective capacity, and people in volunteer capacities wanting to make our city great.
Mayor Scanlon's been there for 18 years. You're going to come in and, if elected, there'll be a culture. How do you deal with that changing culture? How do you make that yours, if you will?
Well, a lot of great things have happened in the last 20 years, and Mayor Scanlon deserves a lot of credit on numerous fronts. And that's why I started by saying that, Beverly's we're on a strong foundation. We're in a good place. At the same time, most communities north of Boston have experienced already the generational change in leadership, and now it's time for ours. So change is, in this case, a good thing, an exciting thing, a great opportunity, for fresh ideas, and clearly many of the same people to be part of the conversation, but other people who maybe will look at a new administration as an opportunity to get involved in a way that they haven't to up to now.
If you're just tuning in, you're watching BevCam's production of Conversation with the Candidates. I'm John Mayo's host of this segment, and we're with Michael Cahill, a candidate for mayor in the city of Beverly. Mike, we talk a lot about budget and fiscal responsibility, and the city council and the mayor are responsible for making decisions for roughly $106 million budget. What specific skills do you feel that you have that qualify you to participate in such a budgeting process?
Sure. Well, I'm the executive director of the Alliance of Massachusetts YMCAs, and though it's a much smaller budget, by no means is it anywhere close. I've had for the last 8 years that responsibility for meeting budget and going out and seeking funding streams, and have done so with great success. When I was in the legislature, I chaired two large committees: the Human Services and Elder Affairs Committee and the Housing and Urban Development Committee. I chaired the first for 4 years and the latter for 2 years. And taken together, these two committees had legislative oversight responsibilities for over 40% of the state budget. Now, that's different from an executive branch type of responsibility, but nonetheless gave me a lot of opportunity to work with and audit and keep tabs on and kind of have commissioners and secretaries before us and kind of justify their budget, and got to do a lot of going out in the field and seeing the application of their the delivery of their services in action. So I think taking together those experiences helped me in this way. And then I think my understanding of the city of Beverly, the time I spent on the city council, in addition to my time in the state legislature, my understanding of the many different funding streams that go into helping city budgets from other levels and areas of government, I think those all help. And then I think my management style, which I spoke to you about, no one person is expected to be the expert in everything. And there's a reason we have a finance director. There's a reason we have a police chief. There's a reason we have a planning director and so forth, city solicitor. And I will have top-notch people working with me to do what Beverly needs every step of the way.
We hear the term fiscal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean to you?
Sure, I think it's a value system. It's a way of conducting yourself, a way of thinking. People work incredibly hard. Residents of Beverly work incredibly hard to stay in their homes, to keep their homes up, to keep their home values up, to pay their taxes. Business owners similarly work incredibly hard to be able to be successful as businesses and to meet their responsibilities, including their tax dollars. So they need to know, they need to be confident that whoever is sitting in the office of mayor understands and respects and values those same things. To me, it's going to be about getting the best possible service in each area of the budget. It's going to be about reassessing on a regular basis whether we're delivering well enough and how we can do better. I know that, for example, there are many things, and I met with Mayor Driscoll over in Salem recently, and she's excited about some additional possible opportunities for regional cooperation, perhaps just with our two cities, perhaps with other cities in the area. And I think any given opportunity to regionalize needs to pass a couple of tests. One, can you deliver the service as well or better? And two, if that's a yes, can you appreciably make savings financially by doing so? In which case, I think you need to really look hard and try to pursue those type of opportunities. So that's just an example of how how I will practice fiscal responsibility. It'll also be to make sure that that as we see opportunities, we really vet them, we really tug at them and examine them, and make sure that we are when opportunities knock that require city investments, that they are the right ones at the time, and that they stack up against other priorities as well.
So when we talk about fiscal responsibility too, it's a lot of times people want the services, but it's a challenge on where is the revenue coming from. So how do you take and balance people's expectations with that need for funds?
I think the first thing I'll do is I will open a dialogue that will be an ongoing, week in, week out, year-round dialogue with the community. I think the more people understand, and we have many demands, many demands. The more people understand what we are currently doing, what we're able to do, what we can anticipate doing in a given fiscal year from one year to the next with the growth in the budget that's possible. I think that's a good thing for the community. The more understanding there is of the process and the realities of what we can do as a city, the better off we'll all be.
What are the most critical factors in balancing the budget, and kind of what are the leverage points?
Well, I think for years the two kind of budget busters, you might say, the two kind of big increases every year in the budget have been the cost of benefits, health coverage to municipal employees, and pension costs. And look, the reality is that the greatest part of our budget goes into personnel costs because it's about delivering services. We have a lot of employees in this community, both school and city side, and we need them. We absolutely need them. And that's how we deliver the services that make a difference in people's lives. But those benefit side costs have been problematic. Now, the state legislature and the governor a couple of years ago passed a municipal health reform law, which was I think it was necessary. The way things were going were not really sustainable, and I think that the savings have begun to be realized and will be more evident as we go forward in terms of kind of bringing those healthcare costs under control. Similar steps are underway with regard to pension costs and what we offer for pensions. So those are two areas that I think bear a lot of attention. And then we've got a range of capital needs and we have operating budget needs. We need to have police and firefighters on the streets. We need our public works department to be able to deliver the many services they deliver, many times which make the roads passable for public safety to get out. We need to make sure that the educational product that we put out, what we provide for our kids in our schools, is everything it can be. So there are real needs in the operating side of the budget, and then there's the capital side. We are going to build a new middle school. We need a new police station. We have needs with our fire department's 3 facilities. I'm still trying to get a better sense of just what's needed with those 3 fire stations. The Public Works Department needs a rebuild eventually on their facilities. Our roads need incredible work and in an ongoing fashion. So there's no lack of need there. We can't do it all at the same time. We can't deliver everything. It's a set of kind of value judgments in terms of what we can do in any given year. And I think that all factors into being a mayor, being the leader, helping to set the budget. It's really a prioritization of what we can do now versus what can't happen right yet, but what we may work towards as we provide the right environment for the economic investment that helps us to have more to work with.
You've already mentioned a couple of important budget issues, but let me ask you this. What do you say are the 2 or 3 top budget issues for the city in the next 2 years?
Well, I kind of ended off with roads, and I think a lot of great work has been done in this city in terms of meeting addressing some long-needed capital issues. Okay? A lot of drainage work, the schools specifically, some work on the library, some work at City Hall, but the roads have been left aside to this point. And again, not through any fault of anybody, it's a question of resources, but we need to be able to dedicate funds each year to our roads more than we've been able to in recent years. So, that's one. Making sure that we get the middle school built, and at the same time, making sure that for the next 4 years, we have kids going to Briscoe. We need to make sure that Briscoe as a facility is what those kids need it to be, and we need to make sure that K-12, that our schools, and pre-K to 12, that our schools are programmatically what our kids and families need them to be for all of our benefits.
There's a program called the Pilot Program, Payment in Lieu of Taxes. Can you tell me your views on the Pilot Program?
Sure. So payment in lieu of taxes, services in lieu of taxes, a couple of terms that are used to describe what happens when nonprofit entities in a community contribute either by direct payment or other provision of services to help the community out. And my understanding of nonprofit, the law that governs nonprofits, and we all understand we have many nonprofits in Beverly. The hospital, the many educational institutions, the YMCA, other entities, some with some that really scrape by year to year in their own budget cycles. But we have many nonprofits in the community, and there is concern. The concern gets raised most everywhere I go with the ability of the city to provide services when nonprofits are occupying a significant amount of our formerly taxable properties that are now not taxable. So the first thing that I'll do is you asked me what some of my out-of-the-gate priorities will be in January if I'm elected. One of them will be to convene the nonprofit leaders in this community and start to have the conversation very constructively about, what is the community benefit each of them provides. The federal law requires that in exchange for their tax-free designation that nonprofits bring benefit to their communities. Community benefit is a term that's used all around the country. There are ways to calculate community benefit, and we need for our nonprofits to be able to demonstrate their community benefit. That community benefit, I believe, needs to be, comparable to the tax breaks that they receive. Many of our nonprofits already come to the table and contribute in numerous different ways to the community. That all needs to be better understood around town. Because anytime something good and helpful and productive comes from that, people need to know it. And then the community needs for our nonprofits to really feel as fully invested in the community as possible and be ready and willing and capable of coming to the table to help, be it with volunteer hours and personnel, be it with money to help out with different things. But I think that's an ongoing set of relationships. The community needs our nonprofits to thrive, and our nonprofits need our city government and our community to thrive. So that's really, I think, an ongoing set of relationships that needs to point in the direction of more resources coming to the table on the things we prioritize as the most important, the things we care about, the things we want to make happen.
Mike, I want to talk about development in the city of Beverly, but before I do, if anybody is just tuning in, you're watching BevCam's production of Conversation with the Candidates. I'm John Maihos, host for this segment, and I'm interviewing Michael Cahill, a candidate for mayor in the city of Beverly. Mike, we think about development in Beverly, and I just wonder what's your overall view of the need or potential for development in the city?
We are a community that people choose and people stay in or people come back to, I think for many reasons, one of which is the real quality and character of our neighborhoods. And that's something we need to protect. I lead with that because there is additional development needed in this community. You've heard me say it multiple times already when we talk about the need for the type of appropriate economic investment and growth that will empower us to deliver the services people care about and need. So I lead with the character of the neighborhoods because we have to have that on the table whenever we're talking about development. As I said, I think the best areas right now to focus our opportunities for economic investment are the downtown and the waterfront and the Brimble Ave corridor. And I think there are a couple of things that jump right out at me when talking about all of those areas. And you can lump the waterfront and downtown in together a bit, but the downtown is quite spread out as well. We need to make sure that neighbors are at the table and that valid concerns are addressed when we are trying to facilitate and promote the type of new growth that we think is needed. And I think that is, you asked me earlier about my style. Anybody from Beverly who comes to the table in good faith is welcome. Anybody who can look at the whole, both the best interests of the city and bring the concerns that they may have for a given part of the city or a given population. Anybody who can do that will be welcome, and I think that's a big part of what people are really kind of yearning for. People. We look at the Brimble Ave conversation, and people want to be part of the conversation. They want to have a hand in what things look like. That said, it all needs to work in the best interest of the whole community, both near term and long term, and so we do. We do need the appropriate economic investment. It will mean growth. It will mean that we'll see more building on the appropriately zoned parcels of land. At the same time, specific to Brimble Ave, for example, there's about 100 acres of conservation land adjacent to what's being envisioned for more development. So when you look at the commercial industrially zoned land by the Music Theater and along Dunham Road, right behind that is conservation land. I want to take that conservation land and make the protections on it stronger. I want to make sure that we're able to ensure ourselves and ensure future Beverly residents that we will always have the open spaces and the recreational spaces to enjoy, even as we are looking to try to invest appropriately in our community's economic growth.
You mentioned character of the neighborhoods. What are some of the other issues in your mind that need to be considered when evaluating a development project or development in general? What are some of the other issues?
Well, I think there are a range of things that are considered by law. And clearly any impact on wetlands is considered. Traffic impacts are considered. So I mean, those are things that right off the top are part of the conversation. And I think better for everyone involved if those conversations start earlier than the law requires. I mean, again, with the Brimble Avenue project, which, by the way, just so we all understand and anybody watching, today's Monday, October 7th, correct? Tonight, the City Council will be taking up the Brimble Avenue issue and maybe bringing it to a vote. So there may be things that people have read and learned about or figured out by the time they watch this that you and I don't know yet. So as you look at the Brimble Avenue project, by law, the public process needed to start when the mayor asked the City Council and the Planning Board to approve a rezoning of a parcel of land. I believe we'll be better served going forward on both this project and other projects if we start the public dialogue and the public conversation and opportunity for input on important projects earlier than the law requires, at a point where people can really come to the table and weigh in and have a say in what something may look like. Again, for me, kind of that threshold is somebody needs to come to the table in good faith, meaning understanding that our challenge is to balance that quality of life we want to protect and preserve in a given neighborhood with the overall needs of the community, both now and in the longer term.
We talk about tourism in Beverly. What's the real tourist possibility for Beverly?
I think it's exciting. I think the potential downtown is great. You know, we have taken steps. When I was in the city council, I led an effort to to kind of recalculate some of the parking requirements along Rantoul Street so that we could facilitate denser, high-quality housing right along that road, right along the street, as a way of having more people living in and around the depot area. People who want to walk out their front doors and spend some of their money, not necessarily get in the car every time. You bring the waterfront alive, you put a couple restaurants down there, which we will. It's all very doable. If we do that, it brings that area up. If you look at the kind of the traditional retail stretch of Cabot Street from when we were kids that's now more services and restaurants, I think there's great potential there for cultural and arts economy to further develop. I think that, you know, it's been building. Montserrat College of Art has been fantastic. Beverly Main Streets has done some great work on this together with the college, together with the music theater. The Cabot Cinema is a big piece of this. We need for that facility to remain a venue that we can use for both cinema and live performance art. And if you take the Larkin Theater and the Cabot and the Briscoe Middle School Auditorium, which is beautiful, by the way, and the bandstand at the Common and the Shell down at Lynch Park, if you look at the performing arts venues that we have, we can have, and I really, you asked me again, what will I look to do out of the gate in January? This is another, to start the ball rolling on starting a summer theater festival in Beverly. Have you been to Williamstown during the summer theater festival at Western Mass? It's tremendous. They come in for several weeks, and you have these first-run shows, you know, plays. You have theater camps. You have a lot of people coming into town. You have commerce, and that's the kind of thing that can help to grow our downtown. The fact that we have so many restaurants and we're a draw, people come to Beverly to go to dinner, right? It happens, and it's a great thing. Now we need to bring in more that will bring people a little earlier and have them stay a bit later, have them come back more often. These are the kind of things that can help to bring the downtown to where we all want to see it.
I've got a laundry list of things here. Sure. What are your thoughts on the following developments? I know you've touched on a few of them already. Route 128 and the Tozer Road project, what do you see as the pros and cons of the project, and are you in favor of proceeding as proposed? Now,
are you splitting that out from the overpass at the music theater, or do you want to talk about it all together?
Talk about it all together, or so separate it if you like.
You said Route 128 and Tozer. Most people are referring to it as Brimble Ave.
That's
right?
correct.
So it's as you get off at exit 19 northbound at Sawyer Road. I will say this: the process has not been what I would have liked to have seen it be. I think we are where we are right now. A lot of neighbors don't feel they have been engaged in the process in any productive way. But that said, there's a decision on the table that, again, will probably have been made before this is watched by anybody because it's happening in a couple hours. The developer who owns a piece of land along Brimble Ave that the city council, that my opponent was a part of, I was not on that council in that 2-year session, that city council approved a zoning overlay district that has created the right in that property and that developer to go to the planning board and seek a special permit. The state and the city want to rezone the state land that's closest to the highway and includes the ramps up to the Victoria Rocky Post. They want to rezone that so that they can swap the land, the state can swap the land with the private developer. So the private developer would have the same rights on each parcel of land, and then the swap would be something they'd agree to. Because my belief is that that developer can develop now, or can go to the planning board now to try to develop that property, and they would have the same rights on a different piece of property if the rezoning happens, and we would likely not see the $5 million in state funding to construct the safety improvements. And we need traffic safety improvements in that area. All the left turns across lanes of traffic at the lower and upper ends of that ramp that goes from Sawyer Road up to Victoria Rocky Post to Brimble, on the exit coming from Centerville and the Farms, getting off at Brimble Ave and turning left, over at Herrick Street Extension by Cycles 128, all of those left turning movements are dangerous. So for us to not get that money to make those traffic safety improvements and still have the increased development that could well happen there, I don't think is a good thing. For that reason, I support the rezoning that's on the table. I don't have a vote, it's the council's vote, but since I'm a candidate, I've been asked many times. I support that. The project as a whole, the big multi-year project to put a new highway exit and overpass in up at the Music Theater to be able to dead-end Dunham Road and take a lot of traffic off of Brimble Avenue and have it go up and down the highway directly to the Music Theater, the old Parker Brothers building, which Cummings has bought and is planning to build a couple of office buildings there, to Mastronzi's and other properties. I think that's something we need as a community. How that ends up happening, what it looks like, is where I want the neighbors to be involved and be at the table to help make that clear.
Former
Yes.
McKay School. It's been sitting empty for years. What
Well,
do we do?
Twice it has been put out to bid by our current mayor. I was on the council the second time, and both times he decided to pull it back. He didn't think the bids that were put in were high enough. He didn't think the offers were high enough. He believed that the depressed real estate market was a part of that reason. I will go in and look to either put that property back out to bid and see what we can do with it there. Or, I know there are some who look and ask whether that's an appropriate site for some city function. I don't know the answer to that. I think that that has been studied and opinions have been given on that. So I think the best thing with that may be to put it out to bid and see what we can get this time around for a future use that might yield some property tax revenues to the city.
What needs to be done to develop the waterfront? How high a priority should it be?
Top priority. It should be a top priority, along with making sure that the middle school project happens, the Rantoul Street project, which we haven't talked about, and a few others. But what we need to do right now is we need to, as a city, we need to take up the mantle on behalf of other property owners down there who want to develop their properties in ways that people would love to see. First floor retail, second and third floor condos, more boat slips, public access and walkways throughout. This is what the whole community, I believe, wants. In order to do it, we need to move or alter or adjust the federal channel, which comes right up against the waterfront, the front there, the waterfront. And we need to redesign or kind of redefine our designated port area, which is an old state statute that was meant to protect marine-dependent uses on waterfronts. So there are two things we need to do. One is with federal regulators, one is in the state legislature. Both of these have been done in numerous waterfront communities in Massachusetts. We can do them in Beverly. They will help to unlock that waterfront and bring multiple restaurants and lots of activity down there that we can all benefit from.
New police or fire station, what type of priority in your mind, and what are the other options? What are the options?
I think when it comes to public safety, what we need in terms of the capital needs of public safety are this. The minute that we can afford to build a new police station, we need to do it. Not a minute sooner, not a minute later. And that's a calculation that will depend upon where we are at with our ability to service our current debt as we're retiring other debt, and whether new economic growth allows us to move ahead a bit in terms of the amount of debt load we carry.
Let's focus on schools. In your opinion, what are the biggest challenges facing the Beverly school system right now?
I think we have great opportunity. We'll have a new superintendent either taking over come January, or if we find the right person and that person is not available till the end of the school year, maybe then. But either way, we'll have a new superintendent. I'm excited about that process. I'm excited to be coming into office at the same time and able to work with somebody. Our challenges are to ensure appropriate class sizes, ensure that the programs that we use, the curriculum we use, the instruction is as strong as it can be. I know that there are some concerns with space in our elementary schools. We need to address those issues. The school committee and the mayor and superintendent, interim superintendent, they've been working at that. I think those are, they're challenges, but challenges are always opportunities. And there's so much greatness going on in our schools today. What I plan to do is to get into the schools with the superintendent, invited by teachers to come see what's going on in their classrooms, to make sure that I, as a voting member of the school committee, if I'm elected, the mayor's a voting member of the school committee, and as the one elected official who has the greatest impact on what the final budget numbers look like, that I'll understand fully what we're doing in our schools. And then we can have this conversation. I'd like to bring you in, on behalf of BevCam to see and really celebrate some of the greatness that's happening, and work to make sure that that greatness is consistent throughout every classroom and every grade level.
Do you feel the mayor-elect should have a part in the decision for a new superintendent?
I'll say this, the superintendent decision is one to be made by numerous people. And it's outlined just how it needs to be made. The timing is close, but at the same time, our superintendent has been gone since June. So I have a great interest. I'm not sure that if I'm elected, I'm not sure that will happen soon enough for me to have great input, but I'd like to. When it comes to the police chief, I most definitely want input. I spoke with Mayor Scanlon right when it was announced that Chief Ray was retiring, and I said, look, I understand that you were elected for 24 months, and you have a job to do, and nobody should tell you that you shouldn't be involved in starting the process for hiring a new police chief. I also believed then, and I believe now, that this mayor should be conducting that process, but it shouldn't be fast-tracked in a way that the mayor-elect does not have a chance to be involved in it. Because the mayor-elect will be the person who's going to work with the new police chief. So, I'm anticipating the question because those are the two new big hires that we've got going on.
Well, you already mentioned a little bit of working with the new superintendent. Are there other ways that you plan to work with the new superintendent of schools, whoever that might be?
Oh, of course, of course. The superintendent is hired as the educational expert in the community. The laws are very clear around the role of the school committee in terms of the school committee's role in interacting with the superintendent and in helping to ensure that the schools are resourced as they need to be. And the mayor, as both the chief executive and a member of the school committee, is part of that mix. I look forward to a very close, very positive, respectful, productive working relationship with every one of my colleagues in government. I think that's a critical need. It always needs to be positive and professional, and everyone needs to be working in the best interest of the community as a whole.
If you can believe it, we're almost out of time.
Really?
One final question. What would you answer to viewers, or would you answer to viewers who ask, why should I vote for you? Why should I entrust the management of the city to you? And you'll have the final 2 minutes of the show to answer that and wrap up.
Okay. Well, thank you, John. I want to thank BevCam for doing this, for taping the show and bringing my points of view to the voters. Why me? I have the experience, my 10 years as your state representative, my 2 years as president of the city council, my 8+ years as the executive director of the Alliance of Massachusetts YMCAs, which has had me working hand in hand with many, many state officials. My understanding of this city, I know the city, I know the state, I know state government, I know how government works, I know how projects get done. I have vast experience at working with different state agencies to secure funding, to work regulatory processes to help people. I've done that many, many times over with different neighborhoods in Beverly and neighborhood groups and issues, community-wide issues. I have an understanding how it all works. I have the work ethic to do it. I've delivered again and again, both as state representative and as city council president for this city. I believe, some of the right ideas. I also understand, I understand myself. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses. I think that I am very cognizant of the talent that's out there around this city. I have great respect for democratic process and the right that people have to play a role in determining where their city goes, what their city does, how their city conducts its business, and how their city grows and improves. I think for all those reasons, I'm the right person. At this time, going forward with the city of Beverly in the shape we are and looking to advance and make great things happen, I'm very confident I'm the person. I ask everybody watching to please give me a good look. Call me if you have questions. Please call me at home if you have questions. Look at my website. Take the time to know who I really am, because I am very confident that together we can make great things happen, and this community will be the better for it for the next decade.
Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks,
Pleasure
John.
to have you again today. That's about all the time that we have. We'd like to thank our guest, Mike Cahill, who's running for mayor for the city of Beverly. My name is John Maihos, and on behalf of BevCam, thanks for joining us.